You check your balance in a parking lot before you go inside. Not because you're careless with money, because you're careful with it, obsessively, the way you're careful around something that's already hurt you once. $12.47. Your daughter wants the birthday present her friend got, the one with the box that lights up. You do the math 3 times, the way you always do, like it might change on the 4th try. It doesn't. It never does. You put the phone face down on the passenger seat so you don't have to look at it while you decide what kind of father you're about to be for the next 10 minutes. Here's the thing nobody tells you about net worth. It's not a scoreboard. It's a filter. It decides what you're allowed to feel in front of other people and what you have to feel alone in a car with the engine off. It decides who gets your patience and who gets your performance. And the strange, cruel joke buried inside all of it is that the filter never actually changes what's underneath. It just changes who's allowed to see it. You're going to move through 7 of these filters today. 7 numbers, 7 rooms. And at every single one, you'll think you've finally arrived. That this is the floor that holds, the number that fixes the thing that's been broken since before you can remember. You haven't arrived. Not once. You've just changed rooms, and every room has its own kind of weather. Level 1. 0, or under it. At this level, money isn't a number, it's a weather system. It happens to you, the way rain happens to you. The eviction notice slid under the door, the repo call that comes while you're at work, so you have to take it standing in a break room pretending it's about something else. The insufficient funds text that lands mid-sentence while you're talking to your kid about her day, and now you're nodding along to a story about recess while a small, cold stone drops through your stomach. You develop a specific kind of math brain down here. Not addition, subtraction. Not what can I build, but what can I still afford to lose? Rent minus the light bill. The light bill minus the thing you told your daughter you'd get her. You get fluent in it fast, the way you get fluent in anything you're forced to practice daily, and nobody claps for fluency in a language you never wanted to learn in the first place. At 0, the world doesn't ignore you. That's the part people who've never been here get wrong. They think broke means invisible. It's the opposite. You are watched constantly, closely, the way you watch a stove you're not sure you turned off. The cashier watches your card. The landlord watches the first of the month like it's a held breath. Every transaction becomes a small negotiation for permission to keep existing a little longer in the position you're already in. You start to understand that poor isn't the absence of money. It's a tax charged on every single dollar that passes through your hands, whether you have 10 of them or 10,000. And somewhere in there, a stove, a stone in the stomach, a card held a half-second too long at the register, you make yourself a promise. Not a plan, a promise. Somewhere out there is a number that makes this stop. You don't know what it is yet. You just know you'll spend the next 20 years finding out. Level 2. $10,000. This is the first number that feels like a wall instead of a hole. You didn't arrive here by a windfall, a lottery ticket, or a rich uncle. You got here the unglamorous way, by not spending money you technically had over and over for longer than felt reasonable. It's the least cinematic accomplishment there is, and it might be the hardest one you ever pull off, because nobody's watching you do it. There's no scene, just a lot of Tuesdays where you didn't buy the thing. $10,000 doesn't buy freedom. Let's be honest about that. It buys one deep breath. It means one car repair doesn't end you. One bad month doesn't cascade into a bad year. You still check the balance in the parking lot. The habit is old, it's load-bearing, it's not going anywhere just because the number changed. But you notice you don't flinch first anymore. You look, and then you feel something. That order used to be reversed. And here's the quiet cruelty nobody warns you about at this level. You finally have something to protect, and the first feeling that shows up isn't relief, it's dread. A new specific dread. The dread of losing the one thing standing between you and the version of yourself in level 1. You went from having nothing to guard to having exactly one thing to guard, and somehow that's heavier than nothing was. You start sleeping with one eye on a number for a completely different reason than you used to. Level 3. $100,000. 6 figures sounds like a headline when you're not there. It feels like a rumor once you are. You hit it after years, after raises you fought for, after a bonus you didn't expect, after finally not touching the retirement account when the car needed a transmission, and you wait for the shift. The day you stop doing math in the cereal aisle. It doesn't come. The parking lot habit is a decade old by now, maybe more. Habits don't check your bank statement before they fire. They just fire. What does change is quieter and stranger. People start asking your opinion about money like you have some to give. A cousin wants advice on a 401k. A coworker asks if you think now's a good time to buy. You answer confidently, you give real advice, and you drive home afterward genuinely unsure whether you know what you're talking about or whether you've just learned to sound like someone who does. That gap between sounding sure and being sure becomes a permanent resident in your head from here on out. This is the level where you discover, quietly and without ceremony, that the finish line was never a number. It was a feeling you assumed the number would eventually produce on its own, automatically, like a vending machine. It doesn't work that way. The feeling has to be built separately, by hand, and nobody told you that part before you spent 15 years chasing the number instead. Level 4. $1 million. The word millionaire used to mean something specific and foreign to you. Yachts, gated driveways, a different species of person entirely, someone who'd never once stood in a parking lot doing subtraction math. Then you arrive there through a decade of almost aggressively unremarkable decisions. A decent salary held steady, a house that quietly appreciated while you were busy raising kids and paying for orthodontia and not looking at it, and one day, the number on the statement has 7 digits, and you realize the word millionaire was never a species. It was just a number wearing a costume that used to scare you. At $1 million, something strange starts happening, and it happens slowly enough that you don't clock it at first. You begin hiding it. Not out of shame, out of self-preservation. You've watched what happens to people who aren't careful with the number, the old friend who suddenly can't get a straight answer out of anyone anymore because everyone assumes he's fine, the family member who becomes an ATM with a heartbeat and a birthday. You learn a whole new register of silence. Not the silence of not having, which you already knew intimately. This is the silence of not saying. It's a different muscle, and it takes just as long to build as the first one did. Technically, by every measure that matters, you are secure now. And you still feel the old reflex in the parking lot, the automatic flinch before you look at the number. It doesn't mean anything anymore. There's nothing left to flinch about, but it's still there. A scar instead of a wound. Scars ache sometimes in the cold, for no reason the doctor can explain. This is that. Level 5. $10 million. This is where money stops being something you actively manage and starts being something that manages itself, quietly, in a room you're not in, while you're busy doing something else entirely. Coaching a soccer game, sitting in traffic, forgetting your own birthday because someone else remembered it for you. You hire people to think about money so you don't have to. If you'd said that sentence out loud to the version of you in that parking lot at level 1, he would have laughed in your face, or maybe just started crying, hard to say which. People treat you differently at this level, but not the way you expected them to. It isn't admiration mostly, it's calculation. You can see it happen behind their eyes now. You've gotten fluent in reading it, the same way you got fluent in subtraction math years ago. The fast, involuntary recalibration of what you might be worth to them, personally, specifically, right now. An old friend reaches out of nowhere just to catch up, and you find yourself, uninvited, waiting for the ask before he's even finished the hello. You hate that you're usually right. You hate it more than you hate almost anything else this level has cost you. The strange, unadvertised grief of $10 million is that closeness gets more expensive, not less. Every warm gesture that comes your way now arrives with an invisible question mark attached to it, one you never used to have to interrogate, and you find yourself doing a new kind of math. Not can I afford this, but what does this person actually want? You're never fully sure the math is wrong. That's the part that stays with you at 2 a.m. Level 6. $50 million. At this number, you stop being a person who happens to have money and start being something closer to an institution with a name stapled to the front of it. You have people now whose entire job, literally their entire professional existence, is you. Your time, your risk exposure, your legacy, your eventual estate. Decisions that used to take you a weekend of thinking now take a team of professionals a month because the stakes attached to your signature have quietly outgrown what any one person, including you, is qualified to judge alone. You'd think this feels like power. Ask anyone who's actually there and they'll tell you, if they're honest, that mostly it feels like custody. Your life gets managed the way a fragile, valuable object gets managed. Insured, protected, planned 3 steps ahead, cushioned against every foreseeable shock. You used to be invisible to every institution you ever dealt with. Now you are one yourself. And it turns out, institutions don't get to have bad days in a parking lot. They're not permitted the small, ordinary human collapse anymore. Somebody, somewhere, is always watching the portfolio, even when nobody's watching you. Level 7. $100 million. There's no ceremony waiting for you here either. No bell that rings, no moment where the fear that started in a parking lot with $12.47 on the screen finally, formally, officially ends. You wait for it anyway. Quietly, almost embarrassed by how much you're still waiting, because some stubborn part of you has been waiting since you were a broke kid, doing math you didn't want to know how to do. What arrives instead of a bell is quiet. Not peace, exactly. Quiet. The specific absence of the noise that used to fill up every financial decision you ever made. Nobody's watching your balance because you don't really have a balance anymore. Not in the sense you used to mean the word. You have positions, structures, trusts. People whose entire job is to worry on your behalf so that you technically don't have to. The worry itself doesn't disappear though. It just changes employers. It moves into someone else's inbox, someone else's sleepless 2 a.m., wearing a suit you're paying for. And then, late one night, doing nothing in particular, no meeting, no fire to put out, just a quiet house and a glass of water, you catch yourself doing math again, completely out of habit. The old parking lot math, the smallest amount that keeps the lights on math. You catch it mid-thought and almost laugh out loud alone in your kitchen because there is nothing left anywhere to calculate. The habit outlived its purpose 11 levels ago and simply never got the memo that it could finally stop. You check your balance in a parking lot, not because you have to anymore. There's genuinely nothing left to check for. No wall that might not hold, no wolf actually at any door. You do it because some 19-year-old version of you in a completely different lot, in a completely different year, scared in a completely different way, is still in there somewhere. Still checking, still waiting for a number, any number, to finally arrive and mean that he's safe now, for good, permanently. It was never the number. It was him. And the strangest thing you discover at the very top, after climbing through every single level there is, isn't what money can eventually buy you. It's how long you can have it all, every dollar, every zero, every level, and still be standing in that same parking lot underneath it all, engine off, waiting to feel free.